In the midst of absolutely terrible polling for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the federal Liberal Party, you might be wondering to yourself quietly or loudly proclaiming in public, how has the Liberal government not collapsed yet? Obviously, they partially haven't collapsed because of Jagmeet Singh and the NDP's supply and confidence agreement, where they in exchange for nothing will continue passing everything that the Liberals want and keep helping them survive confidence votes. But I think that it's arguable that the Liberal government is in the middle of a collapse. They haven't fully collapsed because of Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, but every single indicator would say that if the NDP had competent leadership, they would be pulling the plug on the Liberals. The NDP knows it's not going to form government, but it should be at least pursuing strengthening its hand while Justin Trudeau's so weak, that they should be, if they are smart, willing to have a conservative majority government for 4 years so that they can actually start to eat up more of the left-wing part of the political spectrum in Canada. Obviously, I'm a conservative, so I want the Liberals and the NDP to lose, but I always also like to critique the way that federal parties operate themselves, both the Liberals and the NDP. I even hand out good advice to them, but, sadly, they never take it. But why I think that they're in the middle of a collapse right now is that regardless of what happens before 2025, there's no recovering for the Liberals. They're just in the slow decline or fast decline, depending on how you look at it. And there's no action that they can take to recover. If anything, the smartest thing for the Liberals to do would be to lose now and then regain support later. If they drag out just absolutely blowing it in government right now, they will just leave a bad taste in people's mouths for decades to come. Whereas if they just almost kind of, exit quietly now, allow the NDP to collapse them, and then let Pierre Poilievre take a majority government, they might be able to save themselves a little bit of the embarrassment of Justin Trudeau basically being dragged out of Parliament, kicking and screaming after the 2025 election. And why I say this is you have to look at the polling and just see how just nobody really seems to have much confidence in Justin Trudeau anymore. I actually just want to quickly bring this up on screen now. I'll just share it. It was just about it's from Angus Reid. I don't really want to look too much at Angus Reid's polls right now, but this is what do you prefer? Justin Trudeau staying in power until the next election or Justin Trudeau stepping down? The total right now is 57% of people want him to leave, 28% want him to stay, and 15% don't know. Obviously, mostly conservatives want him to go. The funny thing is 12% of conservatives want him to stay, and I do not doubt that they would rather beat Justin Trudeau in 2025 rather than beat someone far less compelling to beat, like, Chrystia Freeland, or why am I Mark Carney? He's so boring, I almost forgot his name. But the scary thing for Trudeau is 47% of NDP and 41% of Liberal voters wanting him out. That is not tenable for Justin Trudeau. And not only is his coalition partner wanting him out, but a lot of his own supporters from 2021, which again, that was not exactly a big high watermark for the Liberals. It wasn't like his 2015 numbers. They won a big majority. So obviously the sort of people in a poll who would have voted from last election are a big portion of the electorate. No. This is his hardcore base from 21. And 41% of that hardcore base doesn't want him to stick around. That is truly pathetic. And now I just want to move on to the Abacus data polling, showing that Justin Trudeau he's technically his disapproval rating come down a bit, but it's really just obviously ebbs and flows of it. He cannot get out of this 27% approval rating, like a little slump that he's in. And the reason that's very dangerous for someone like him is because, like I've said in a lot of other episodes of this show, Justin Trudeau's approval is effectively whatever the Liberals' percentage in the federal polling is. Plus or minus 2, the Liberals are never going to exceed greatly what Justin Trudeau's approval rating is, because he's so brain-drained the party, and every single minister and MP follows exactly what he says, to the point that nobody sees anything the government does being disconnected from Justin Trudeau. So when you see Justin Trudeau's approval rating at 27%, it's not surprising that he's at 26%. And when you look at his long-term approval, he's like, 29%, 28, 30, 31. And when you go back to their polling, it's effectively the exact same thing. 26, 28, 29, 28, 30, 31. Again, with the Conservative Party, I'll even bring up Pierre Poilievre's approval. His approval is 36%, disapproval 34%, but the Conservative Party is pulling off 40% in the polls right now. Because, again, you don't have to be in love with Pierre Poilievre to think that it's a good idea to vote for the Conservatives. With the Liberals, there's no policies in their playbook where you're like, well, I don't like Justin Trudeau's personality, but I like his policies. If you were here for the policies, you would have run away before 2019. You would have not been with the Liberals this late in the game, waiting for the policy to somehow create good results in Canada. It's obviously not. You're either sticking around just because for some reason you love the charisma of Justin Trudeau, or you're a hyper progressive who really just cares about social issues in the GTA. That's what his base is left. And that's why I don't think Justin Trudeau will ever have as bad of an election turnout as Michael Ignatieff. But the thing is, I think that his ceiling is sealed at around 30%. I don't think that the Liberal Party could do more than 30% in the next election. Effectively, the only thing that they can count on is the Conservative Party somehow messing up and then alienating a bunch of their members of their base. If they want to avoid that, basically, they should just stick on the trail they are. Just be hardline conservative on every issue. Don't buckle. Don't be like Aaron O'Toole and start endorsing carbon taxes and gun bans and whatnot. That's how you make sure that your turnout remains low. The funny thing is in 2021, turnout was up because everyone's at home during COVID reading the news, so everyone feels like a political expert that election, and somehow Aaron O'Toole still brought in less votes. It was just a turnout election, effectively, but he just didn't excite his people. The Liberals excited their people to come out and defend the lockdown regime, and Aaron O'Toole didn't have the opposite side of the political spectrum come out for him, people against lockdowns. I just want to move on to a couple of these other polls because, again, these are fairly enlightening in my mind. So when you see the committed voters by the regions, this is where Trudeau is losing so bad. It's in BC and Ontario right now. Atlantic Canada, too. The Conservatives actually look like they could sweep certain provinces, but obviously there's not that many more seats for the Conservatives to win in the Atlantic Canada. Obviously, the Liberals will still mostly win all the seats in Newfoundland and places like PEI, but the Conservatives could sweep New Brunswick and win a lot of Nova Scotia. But the main thing is in Ontario, with 42% in Ontario and 41% in BC, the Conservatives are winning 50% more seats than they used to win over there, and the Liberals are even potentially losing a bunch of seats to the NDP. And even in Manitoba, the Liberals could lose any seats they had there to the NDP simply because Wab Kinew was just elected, and now the NDP is suddenly very popular there. It's why the Liberal Party used to do somewhat well in Alberta back in the day because it used to be a little bit more divided federally. But as soon as the NDP won the provincial election in 2015, there's maybe one or two seats in the entire province that are ever competitive for the Liberals. And despite the fact that the NDP is a fairly distant third party most of the time and across Canada, they have far more options in the province of Alberta to win. And so when I say that this party is in collapse, it's that you're not going to be able to win back the type of voters that the Liberals require to be able to actually carry elections based on everything that's going on right now. Here's another poll. This is actually from the previous Abacus data poll. And what I mean when they cannot bring back the right sorts of voters, again, all the Liberals have is climate voters, socially progressive voters, and that's it. If you really care about the economy, the Liberals aren't going to release a policy talking about I don't know, we're going to support small businesses. Oh, we're going to try and create new jobs. It's just that nobody those are track record issues. If you're in government, you have a bad track record over 8 years, you're not going to put out a policy and convince people that you're going to be good on that issue all of a sudden. That was the problem with the PCs in Manitoba. They had fantastic socially conservative policies towards the very end of their government about protecting parents. But the problem with putting that stuff out late in the game is, although that brings back on socially conservative people, you can't market economic policies, your economic record. If you've had a bad economic record, you can't just say we're going to have a good economic record. This is even where I kind of criticized Danielle Smith during the Alberta 2023 election, when suddenly in the middle of the election, they're saying we're going to reduce income taxes and other sorts of corporate taxes and whatnot. It's you should have done that. You should have announced that right when you became the premier, because if you say it in the middle of an election, people are like, well, you were in government, you didn't do it, so this could be an empty promise. That was the exact thing that happened in Manitoba, a lackluster PC government that was like a big government kind of a government managed economic growth type of a party. And when they started trying to pivot back to more free market stuff before the election, nobody trusted them and business people stayed home. So, but this poll for the Liberals shows the exact same thing. On a lot of those long-term issues that you have to establish credibility on, Liberals have none. So this is last week's poll from Abacus. So taking action to deal with climate change, Trudeau has a 7+ lead over Pierre Poilievre. Making childcare more affordable, he has a 4+ lead over Pierre Poilievre. And okay, That's pretty pathetic too, that he only has a 7+ and a 4+ lead over Polyev over two issues that he effectively has monopolized all of the speaking time on. It's not that like Polyev's just like, the environment sucks, burn it. Obviously not, but he also he's not an alarmist, and yet even probably climate alarmists don't exactly trust Justin Trudeau anymore. They're probably going over to the Green Party, obviously, or even the NDP. But on all these other economic issues and or sort of different efficiency issues in government, stuff like protecting and improving the public healthcare system, Pierre has a 7+ lead. Dealing with Donald Trump if he becomes the U.S. president, that one's a little bit of a side issue, but like +9. Managing the economy to create better paying jobs, +15 Polyev. Building more houses and making life more affordable, or making it more affordable, +18 Polyev. Making life more affordable, +17 Polyev. Keeping taxes as low as possible, +24% Polyev. And even though sometimes in some elections people get complacent about how much taxes are really going to cripple the economy, some people think, well, if we raise taxes, look all the extra social benefits we'll get. People have seen that those social benefits aren't worth it. So if you're not a low tax party, you are going to get clobbered in 2025. People are not going to evolve on that issue before the election. Say, you know what? Actually, raising taxes on the rich is a great idea because we could have more buses or something like that. We could make more infrastructure projects that won't be done in 12 years. Nobody's on board with that stuff because people are noticing that their own home finances are finally being infringed upon based on all the government policies and inflation. So when you're winning 24% with people who think that you're going to keep your taxes low in an election, whenever you see the polling when it comes to what people care most about, the polling shows people are pretty much caring about cost of living. And if you're winning on taxes in a cost of living election, you're pretty unlikely to lose. Like, again, even just the Liberals' arguments against Pierre Polyev are extremely pathetic. Remember that Apple video where Pierre Polyev's eating an apple, like answering ridiculous questions from a reporter, just asking what he means every time he asks another smear question? The Liberals tried to turn that viral video, not just in Canada, but around the world with conservatives. They tried to turn that video into an attack ad against Pierre Polyev. These people suck at marketing. Why would you ever play? People were even saying, thanks for the free advertising from the Conservative Party when the Liberals posted that, because they don't know how to do marketing. They just assume that, well, we'll point out a couple of times because Polyev said, I don't really use left and right language when I speak on issues. And they're like, the Liberals are like, we can cherry pick 4 times he has done that and everyone's going to like us. Like, who cares? What you're making a nothing point. And then like them trying to say, Polyev is actually a lot like Donald Trump. I think Max Fawcett at the National Observer wrote an article like that. Like, nobody cares. I even talked to a room of conservatives who are worried about like Pierre Polyev being labeled as Canada's Trump. It's like the only reason the Liberals are saying that about him is because, like Trump, Pierre Poilievre's being very noticeable. That's his biggest piece of, that's the thing he has most in common with Donald Trump. He's a compelling person to listen to, regardless of what you think of Donald Trump or Pierre Polyev. Being noticed is a fantastic thing when you're in electoral politics. The problem for Justin Trudeau these days is he's actually no one really cares about him these days. He's around, people make fun of him, but nobody's waiting for a new policy proposal from him because they think he's tapped out. And everyone trying to criticize Polyev, he's like, he's just being negative. He doesn't have enough policy proposals. That doesn't play well in an election. Nobody reads the 50-page reports that Aaron O'Toole put out on policy. One, they weren't very good, I can tell you from having skimmed through them. And then 2, who cares? Who's reading a 50-page report? They trust Polyev more simplistically defining his small government worldview than they do with Aaron O'Toole sort of giving his weird mixed economy worldview in this giant novel that he put out online. Nobody's reading it, and they don't trust Aaron O'Toole because one-on-one, he does not articulate conservatism well, where Pierre Polyev articulates conservatism very well in a very concise manner. He doesn't need 20 bullet points to tell you why he's a conservative. He stands in favor of small government and for the individual first, and that's why he does so well. That's where the Conservative Party is actually having a fantastic time this election because every other party is running to the left. Even, frankly, the PPC, even though I would say it's a right-wing party, obviously, they're running to the left in the sense that they're only criticizing Polyev, so they're making Polyev seem like the only interesting guy in the room. When everyone's attacking the opposition leader, you know that that guy's going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And to take one last jab personally at the PPC, guys, if you wanted to have more than just several thousand members in part of your party and you want to be growing the polls, try attacking the Prime Minister. Try proving why he's doing a bad job and why you're going to do a better job. No, I guarantee you, no party in history has ever won attacking the opposition leader when they're in an election. You attack the current prime minister, and only the current prime minister's party gets to attack the opposition because they're obviously the people who might replace them. They're allowed to do that, and even then, the ruling party should mostly just stick to talking about accomplishments and talk about how the other guys aren't really as serious as they are. That's it. Anyways, that should be it for me today. Make sure, if you can, donate to my legal fund in the comment section below. Not comment section, description. My Give, Send, Go link. I have a Chinese billionaire suing me. I have questioning on like the 23rd or whatever. It's a ridiculous defamation case. I did nothing wrong. My guest writer did nothing wrong. We printed nothing wrong. He just wants an apology letter to pretend that every single thing that every other person has said multiple times about him is untrue by suing a 24-year-old he assumed he couldn't pay to defend themselves. I can. And you can help me pay for it a little bit easier by donating. Also, follow me on X. I have the link to my X account in the description below, as well as TNT emails. The TNT email list in the description. If you click on that and sign up, we will send you our videos and articles straight to your email because oftentimes you have to rely on social media algorithms to show us whenever we've put out something new. And by signing up, you'll just get that directly, and you won't have to wonder if we put out something new and you just missed it because YouTube didn't let you know. Other than that, I hope everyone has a great day.